Tarkov is in a weird place right now. For instance, take a look at this crazy spawn glitch that's happening to me quite a lot at the moment. See, this is the problem. This is why I don't want to do it, because it's stupid, right? This isn't the only time that it's happened either. I've had it multiple times on the same day whilst using transits, and it's one of the many issues causing problems in this patch's endgame. But with a wipe in likely around 4 weeks from now, does it really matter? Well, not really, just so long as it gets resolved before the next patch hits. This spawn bug that I've just shown you happens when you're using a transit, and sometimes it spawns you in with another player who's not part of your squad on the same spawn location. This is obviously extremely problematic because sometimes you load in and then one of you dies immediately because there's no time for diplomacy. Even more problematic is the fact that it can happen to you when you're not transiting, so if you're just entering into a normal raid, the transit player then joins with you and they know that it could potentially happen, whereas for you it's not really as obvious. Given that the transit mechanics are one of the more interesting additions to the game recently to allow you to expand and explore outside of the way that we've usually interacted with the game, this is compounded on lots of other problems in the endgame which have made the end of 15.5 fall a little bit flat. I usually try to get Lightkeeper at least because I normally don't go for Kappa given the insane amount of time that it takes to get there, and also Lightkeeper is normally important for endgame events and things like that. But unfortunately, at the moment, if you get to Key to the Tower, where you have to try the dongle and run up the beach, then you have to go to find the V3 flash drive in the next quest. When you try to go and do that, the V3 flash drive seemingly isn't there, and when you leave, the quest fails and there's no way to restart it. People have tried many things, like angering Lightkeeper by killing Zerachi and then completing the Make Amends questline instead, but at some point you still have to go and find the V3 flash drive, and those routes don't seem to work very well either. So with that avenue closed off as well, I've been spending my time working on the Big Pockets questline, which does actually work, but it just goes to show the way that the boss spawns work in the endgame, with them only being 30%, and sometimes you can go raid after raid after raid after raid and not find them, which ends up just being a brutal grind and not really that fun. I've also seen many reports of people actually completing the Big Pockets quest and then just not getting the reward and having to go to support and getting it given to them after 7 days or 2 weeks or something. No one really seems to know why you don't get it or why you do get it. It's all a bit of a mess. Almost the most annoying part here is the fact that the rest of the game actually feels alright. After the changes made last wipe, the weapon variability that I'm seeing on PMCs is actually quite high, and nothing seems insanely OP when compared to the previous patch of M62 with the MDR and things like that. But the ongoing background issues as well of things like trader rep bugs where you log into arena and then log back into the main game and you've lost a load of trader rep for no reason. Fortunately, I haven't been too hurt by that, but I did have my fence rep removed down from 5.5 down to 2.5, which really sucked. Along with other things like the insane fog that's appearing every other raid, and sometimes even your screen splitting in half that I've seen from various people. I haven't had that one personally. And then some ballistics issues as well, where high pen rounds aren't going through arms and plates through to the player's chest, despite them having enough pen to do so quite clearly. In the example shown, this is a 338 Lapua Magnum, which is one of the highest pen bullets in the entire game. Some of this has been compounded by the apparent lack of player population in the endgame, which seemingly coincided with the matchmaking update, and I think this is part of it, where the matchmaker does seem to be putting PMCs into more quiet raids, so it's very difficult to actually find other people. But also, we do have to remember that after the Zombies event, we both had a lot of other games coming out and people just not wanting to play because of the end of the wipe. The Zombies event did bring quite a lot of people in to go and complete the quest, and it was something interesting and new, but since then, we haven't had anything, so it wouldn't be surprising if there were less players playing the game at the moment. With the likes of Stalker 2 being released, which clearly has quite a large overlap with the Tarkov player base, it's difficult to know whether it's the matchmaker at fault or whether it is just simply the endgame player count. So outside of actual bugs that need to be resolved, this wipe has had one of the most inflated economies that we have ever seen, and there's a couple of reasons for this. Firstly, Bitcoin. Every single wipe that we see, Bitcoin goes above about 700 or 800,000 rubles in game. This causes the economy to just go completely bonkers, and the fact that the traders have fixed prices for everything means that the player base becomes incredibly rich, which ends up removing part of the point of playing, which is really the struggle of Tarkov. Once you have everything and you don't need anything else, there's very little reason to go into raid anymore or loot or really do anything. We also had Arena compounding on top of this, and I do think with some tweaks BSG can get this one under control. The daily quests are slightly harder to roll into Last Hero and complete all in one go now because there's one extra game mode as well, and I have noticed them becoming very slightly more difficult in terms of getting a particular rank or place or number of kills, and also the rewards not being quite as good as they were before, which is all positive. There's also the ongoing conversation about finding raid and the flipping of items on the flea market, which I'm really torn on. I don't know whether it will necessarily fix anything by removing it, because all you do by changing the finding raid on the flea market for trader items is you move money from one player to another. This probably does widen the gap between experienced players and newer players, but it doesn't actually do anything to the overall money supply within Tarkov's economy. In fact, it actually reduces the amount of money in circulation because there's a flea market fee every time one player trades an item with another. The easiest way to put a break on this is to add a simple flag on an item that gets removed when you enter into a raid, and that would get rid of most of the flipping. It does cause some strange other things as well, which is the reason why I prefer a slightly more nuanced and complicated approach, but if the idea is just to get rid of flea market flipping passively on the market, then this would suffice to do that. So outside of the bugs and the other issues in the game at the moment, what can we actually expect for patch 16? Well, we've seen patch 15.5 already, and most of the stuff that we thought we were going to get did come, except for Unity 2022, which as per Tarkov TV has been pushed into patch 16, hopefully fingers crossed. There was also the discussion of more woods content, and this one is kind of interesting because we've already seen a new location be added to woods. This was speculated to be Prapor's hideout, but it is in fact Ogrizok from the Raid series, which is the live-action movie-style content that Battlestate has produced in the past, and the BTR driver makes some reference to this being his new base as well, and that it used to be an old trader's who has disappeared and is not there anymore. So these things all tie in together because you're supposed to be able to get quests from the BTR driver, and this may well be his new base. I suspect then that we probably will be getting some extra stuff on woods, and this is just a little teaser of what is to come. One of the most exciting things that has been talked about for the next wipe, for me at least, is the prestige system, which we will be able to see the first iteration of. So as per Nikita, when we reach a certain condition, which is a level or a quest or something, you can reset the game for bonuses. Some of these are things like dog tags, achievements, clothing, melee weapons, containers, backgrounds, voices, armbands, collectible figures, that kind of thing. And they've got 10 levels in the works, but we're going to start just with the first 2.
And there will be 10 prestige levels. Yeah, we will start from, like not from all the 10, but the first 2.
He has also mentioned being able to pick certain buffs or perks or something like that for the next playthrough, and one of these that was mentioned in the past potentially was going to be a hardcore account where the rule set is locked into the game itself, which would actually be really quite cool. The idea being that some of the things that you could choose were actually not buffs but negatives, and for that you get maybe enhanced XP or money or something along those lines. But I'm excited for this system because it gives people something else to do in the endgame. Rather than just force wiping your account, you actually get something for doing so and allows you to play through the game again. So you really have 2 choices. You can either go through the loop multiple times, or you can just stay playing endgame and push through to Lightkeeper tasks or Kappa or whatever it may be. We will be going back into the winter season with this patch, and so we're going to be having some winter camo as well that has not existed until now, which is pretty cool. And there's also going to be a customs rework, which seems mostly focused around the factory zone area of customs. There's been a couple of teasers as well about more hideout customization, and then some big features that are coming like booby trapping bodies and containers, as well as new weapons such as the RPG and the TMG M10. The RPG, whilst fun, probably won't be used that much in regular gameplay, so the more interesting implication for me is whether we can actually use it to destroy the BTR or something else. There's got to be some reason for it to be there, otherwise it's just another addition in the game that'll just kind of get forgotten about. Lastly, there's a couple of quality of life things, such as uninterrupted healing across the whole body, so if you get a black limb and you end up with 1 damage on every single body part, you don't have to pull your health kit out 6 different times in a row to heal 1 damage, which would be nice. Some improvement to the post-raid stats to give us more detailed feedback on what actually happened, as well as a weapon mastery rebalance and quest rework. We did see showcased a small change to recoil and the way that it visually looks on screen, but because everybody absolutely hated it, we didn't really get to see Nikita's full thoughts whether they were going to add it to the game or not before they disappeared off for the zombie event. Clearly, there's going to be a bunch more stuff in patch 16 that isn't there. There's always surprises and things like that, but I just really hope that they can clear up some of these bugs, especially the ones regarding progression, trader rep, that kind of thing, because they are very, very damaging for the long-term player base, and they really hurt the wipe's longevity because people just can't complete the goals that they wanted to. With that, I wish you the best of luck in the next couple of weeks while we wait for the wipe. As always, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as usual, have fun in your raids.